Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Roundtable. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Señores oyentes de Usa la Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Roundtable. Desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal, from the city of brotherly love. Les habla Fernando Mendez, Dani Ramos controla la máquina digital y, pues como siempre, noticias locales, nacionales, internacionales y, bueno, en este momento hay unos 4 o 5 temas muy importantes para todo el mundo. En el día de hoy se va a empezar el debate en la Corte Suprema de Justicia sobre el aborto, un asunto que ha llevado a la Corte el estado de Mississippi, que prohíbe, una ley que prohíbe el aborto después de las 15 semanas de embarazo. Ese es un asunto que preocupa a mucha gente porque va en contra de una ley que se aprobó hace más de 30 años, que ha sido debatida por más de 50 años, el asunto del si las mujeres pueden o no controlar su propio cuerpo. Y bueno, se daba por sentado que esta ley no se iba a cambiar, pero aquí estamos. Luego de que Donald Trump puso 3 jueces en la Corte Suprema, jueces conservadores en la Corte Suprema, dándole una mayoría probable para poder cambiar, alterar esta ley de Roe versus Wade. Así que hay una gran preocupación de parte de las mujeres, de parte de los activistas en cuanto a la libertad que las mujeres deben tener para controlar sus cuerpos, de que esto podría cambiar la ley. Así que vamos a seguir esto de cerca. Repito, empieza hoy el debate y seguirá, por supuesto, por unos días hasta que la Corte Suprema pueda emitir una resolución. Eso por una parte. Por otra parte, seguimos con esto del COVID. Ahora hay otro problema, otra expresión de COVID que se ha manifestado desde África, desde el sur de África. Y es una nueva razón para preocuparnos, porque ya estábamos a punto de declarar COVID vencido, pero este Oxicron ha llegado otra vez, Omicron, ha llegado otra vez a alterar la paz. Entonces la gente no puede confiarse en que si está uno vacunado o no. No se sabe exactamente si este nuevo virus puede ser más contagioso, si puede sobreponerse a las vacunas, a pesar de no estar vacunado hasta 3 veces, porque muchos de nosotros hemos recibido 3 vacunas. Y todavía pues hay una preocupación, porque esta nueva manifestación, según entiendo por parte de los científicos, el modo como están explicando esto, es como, como agujas que vienen en es como una bomba, tiene la forma redonda, con estas puyas que son variantes y, pues según entiendo, cuando se manifestó en Europa, cuando llegó un avión de África, había individuos ya contagiados de este Omicron, pero con diferentes formas. Así que no era simplemente un virus o una forma del virus. eh, Todos estos pasajeros estaban contagiados de Omicron, pero con diferentes versiones. Así que eh, por eso se preocupan los científicos en este momento de que pueda derrotar las vacunas que hemos recibido contra el COVID. Ahora, esto no es para alarmarnos porque el doctor Fauci y otros doctores están anunciando que no se sabe a ciencia cierta por dónde va, cómo se reproduce, qué tan contagioso es y si puede o no derrotar la resistencia de las vacunas. Así que ese es un aspecto que nos preocupa en el día de hoy. Pero más titulares sobre lo que está ocurriendo en Washington. Ya sabemos que los republicanos están en este momento en una lucha interna, ah, que está este señor McCarthy, no puede controlar ciertos elementos del Partido Republicano. ah, una representante que se ha manifestado como anti-musulmana y ha hecho unas declaraciones en contra de la representante Ilhan Omar, que es musulmana. Y de un modo tal que es insultante lo que ha hecho y luego de haber aparentemente eh, pedido excusas, hecho una apología, resulta que al fin de cuentas no hay tal, simplemente ha repetido el insulto y continúa haciéndolo. Y entre tanto, pues eh, ni McCarthy ni ningún otro republicano ha hecho declaraciones en defensa de Omar o en contra de esta representante de Colorado, que es la que ha hecho las referencias anti-musulmanas contra la representante Omar. Esto es una manifestación más del modo como el Partido Republicano se ha transformado en el partido de Donald Trump, en un partido racista, en un partido anti-derechos humanos. Bueno, todas las manifestaciones negativas que de algún modo representan el trumpismo, representan el estado actual del Partido Republicano. Y no hay una voz, digamos, la voz de Mitch McConnell, la voz de Mitt Romney, la voz de otros republicanos más moderados que hayan defendido al representante Omar, que hayan atacado a esta señora de Colorado. Boebert es el nombre de esta señora, Lauren Boebert, de Colorado, que ha insultado a la representante Omar, que luego de haber hecho esas declaraciones, la representante Omar ha recibido amenazas con mensajes por teléfono, que son amenazas muy serias y chocantes, que amenazan con, bueno, ponerle fin a su vida. Eso es lo que en este momento sorprende, que no haya una voz de parte del Partido Republicano que pueda decir, esto está mal, esto no debe ocurrir. Entonces, vamos a ver qué pasa, ¿no? Porque evidentemente McCarthy o no puede o no quiere controlar este debate interno entre... hay dos o tres individuos que están uno en contra del otro. El representante Marjorie Green es inevitablemente una de las personas envueltas en eso porque ya no tiene nada más que hacer, ¿no? No tiene responsabilidades dentro del Congreso porque le quitaron los puestos que tenía, precisamente porque es incompetente y no sirve solamente para ofender a la gente. Entonces, se ha dedicado simplemente a debatir con insultos, a atacar constantemente al presidente Biden, a atacar constantemente a los demócratas. Bueno, y los republicanos pues no han presentado, no han ofrecido ningún plan. Entonces, pues ahí estamos. Esta es una situación increíblemente difícil en este momento en que el país enfrenta una crisis de salud con esto del COVID, una crisis económica, porque a pesar de que hayan aprobado estos trillones de ayuda, esto no ha llegado todavía a las cuentas de la gente. Ahora, a pesar de eso, un economista que aparece con frecuencia en MSNBC está diciendo que hay dinero, que hay mucha gente, clase media, mucha gente que ha recibido dinero de ayuda y que por lo tanto tiene esto en el banco porque no hubo oportunidad de gastarlo en viajes o gastarlo en compras porque estábamos aislados en nuestras casas. Entonces, él dice que hay ah, bastante dinero, hay trillones en la economía dormidos, estos trillones, que en algún momento pueden empezar a salir, a gastar. Entonces, esto va a causar la inflación. Ya sabemos lo que pasa cuando hay demasiada demanda y no hay suficientes productos para suplir esta demanda. Entonces, ya sabemos que eso ha ocurrido efectivamente porque a lo que llaman la cadena de suministros, la supply chain, está todavía en efecto, a pesar de que ha mejorado el asunto según los titulares más recientes. Esto del supply chain está lentamente resolviéndose, hay más contenedores que se han distribuido desde Los Ángeles hasta Chicago, hasta Filadelfia. Está bajando esta pila de contenedores que estaban esperando nada más que el transporte. Entonces, esto ha dado esperanzas de que para, para el mes de diciembre, para la Navidad, la gente llegue a recibir la mercancía que ha pedido. Ese es otro titular, entonces, el asunto de la supply chain, de la cadena de suministros, que está mejorando el asunto. Pero estamos todavía sufriendo con esto del COVID. Esto es lo que continuamos viendo en los titulares. Este Omicron que ha complicado el asunto. Esto de la Corte Suprema oyendo argumentos en el caso de Mississippi que amenaza con ponerle fin a este Roe versus Wade y está preocupando a las mujeres, está preocupando a los activistas que defienden los derechos de las mujeres. Esto tiene que ser una preocupación para todo el mundo, porque si es una Corte Suprema conservadora y activista, vamos a ver muchos cambios en ese aspecto también. Y luego, uno de los más preocupantes sería en cuanto al derecho a portar armas, ¿no? Y esto sí tiene repercusiones para todo el mundo, ¿no? Ya hemos visto que otros casos de individuos jóvenes usando las armas de un modo equivocado han matado gente. Bueno, vamos a tomar una breve pausa aquí en Usa la Radio. Les habla Fernando Mendez desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. Dani Ramos controla la máquina digital. Regresamos en un momento.
Greetings from the city of brotherly love.
I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Roundtable. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Los señores oyentes de USA la Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Roundtable. Desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal, les habla Fernando Mendez y Dani Ramos controla la máquina digital. Estamos hablando sobre los diferentes titulares que nos preocupan. Esto del aborto, el caso de Mississippi ante la Corte Suprema, el caso del control de armas, sobre todo las armas de alto poder, que tanta gente, tantas tragedias han provocado en este país. La división interna en el Partido Republicano por causa de declaraciones antimusulmanas de parte de una representante de Colorado, Lauren Boebert, y en contra de Ilhan Omar, que es una representante musulmana. Es americana, pero ella tiene su religión es musulmana. Y el hecho de que el Partido Republicano no está haciendo nada para controlar estos argumentos tan agrios que ocurren dentro del partido. So, we have headlines. Supreme Court prepares to hear the Mississippi abortion case. Says no abortions after 15 weeks after conception. Entonces, that's what we were talking about. En español, ahora en inglés, the conservative leaning Supreme Court will take up the most important abortion case in 30 years. As the justices consider Mississippi's request to overturn Roe versus Wade and uphold a state law that bars the procedure of 15 weeks after conception. The dispute represents a culmination of a decades-long effort on the part of critics of the landmark opinion that legalized abortion nationwide to return the issue to the states. A move that would almost immediately eviscerate abortion rights in large swaths of the South and the Midwest. Aquí en paréntesis, esto salió del New York Times, pero se nos ocurre que esto que dice aquí que afecta al Midwest, los estados en medio del país y en el sur, bueno, afecta a todos los estados. Lo que es más controvertido en este momento es el hecho de que la gente pudiente, los ricos, no se verán afectados del mismo modo que los pobres, que se verán obligados a usar medios más peligrosos para obtener abortos. The very fact that the current court, with its solid 6-member conservative majority, agreed to even consider a state law that bars abortion long before viability suggests that the court, bolstered by 3 of former President Donald Trump's appointees, is poised to scale back a court precedent, if not reverse it outright. Already, in a separate dispute, the court is considering a Texas law that bars the procedure after 6 weeks, and the justices have allowed that law to remain in place for 3 months, rendering Roe a dead letter in the country's second largest state. Para que entendamos bien, la Corte ha dejado esta ley que existe ya en Texas, en el estado de Texas, que prohíbe el aborto después de las 6 semanas. no las 15 de Mississippi, sino las 6 semanas. Entonces, al decidir no hacer nada con esta ley de Texas, la Corte en efecto ha permitido que se anule la ley de Roe versus Wade. Así que esto es un peligro. Volvemos a ese tema después, pero entre tanto hay otros titulares. En Chicago, 1,000 muertes como resultado de la violencia. 1,000 deaths in Chicago. It's a record number. I think in Philadelphia we're approaching 800. I'm not sure of the number, but I mean, I've seen very big numbers in Philadelphia. Not this 1,000 of Cook County in Chicago, pero hay un número bastante grande en Filadelfia. Se supone que hay un reporte que va a aparecer en estos días. Este asunto del control de armamentos es algo preocupante. If the court decides to approve, and Reverend Al expressed his concerns on MSNBC, Al Sharpton, de que se apruebe que la gente lleve armas abiertamente en Nueva York. Él expresó su preocupación porque hay un nuevo alcalde en Nueva York, que esto es lo que va a encontrar el nuevo alcalde cuando tome posesión de su puesto. Va a hallar una nueva ley que permite a la gente portar armas abiertamente. Open carry in New York. That Al Sharpton thinks that it's a devastating law for New York, for one of the places where there's large numbers of crimes that occur with all sorts of weapons, guns. Same thing in Chicago, same thing in Philadelphia, San Francisco, all over the country. It's difficult to understand because these people who create our laws are not stupid. They are intelligent people. They may be misguided. They may be, their opinions may be wrong, but they are not stupid. Why would they deliberately misinterpret and over all these hundreds of years now, openly misinterpret this Second Amendment about the right to bear arms? Even if it's not explicitly stated as such, the right to bear arms is limited or should be limited to representatives of the law, not to any individual, not to all of us. But even if we grant that there's such a legitimate interpretation of the Second Amendment, here's the other problem with that. Is that while trying to regulate the right to bear arms, why have they not opposed the right of states or cities to require strict identification, strict testing of people who want to possess these weapons? It's sort of it doesn't make any sense to sort of leave it open without controls. If you have the money and access to buy the weapons, you go and do it, and then possess a weapon that can kill people. Um, this same representative that I was talking about that insulted um, Ilan Omar was wearing a T-shirt that was in sarcastic tones, commenting on the recent tragedy on a set in which an actor killed the person who was helping in the production of the movie. And it's her mentality is such. I mean, she is at the same time that she's wearing this T-shirt, commenting with sarcasm on something that was a very tragic event and not a deliberate killing. Because she is anti-Muslim, but she's also an individual who says that Donald Trump is the legitimate president, and she says the White House is in Mar-a-Lago. And when somebody in her audience commented that Mar-a-Lago is the real White House, she immediately agreed. So this is a crazy individual. So are the crazies in charge of our government? I mean, that's really more worrisome. But here we are. So laws that would make complete sense. High power weapons do not need to be possessed by individuals. You need something for hunting, legitimate, of course. There are plenty of weapons for that. Nobody needs the sophisticated army-style weapons. No individual should possess those weapons at home. There's another aspect to this, that some of the tragedies have occurred because individuals who own the weapons have not controlled who has access to them. So we have the case of this 15-year-old that was arrested in Michigan, in a school in Michigan, after leaving 3 people dead and 8 injured with a weapon that had been legally acquired by his parent, by his father. So we advocate, repeat, we need more strict background checks. But also, based on this latest tragic event in Michigan, of a 15-year-old who got possession of a gun that belonged to his father, we advocate that those who own weapons have to be responsible. And if they are unable to keep their weapons safely locked away, that they should be held responsible. And that's what we need. We need legislation so that whoever owns that weapon, even if this is not the person responsible for the crime, like as the 15-year-old arrested in Michigan, that the father, the person who got the weapon and did not keep it safe, that person should be held responsible. That's what we need. We need more serious punishment for a lack of concern about the safety of the weapons you possess. And we need all kinds of gun control laws because there's insanity regarding the possession of weapons. So, we're going to take another brief pause here in Usa la Radio. Les habla Fernando Mendez, Dani Ramos controla la máquina digital. Regresamos en un momento.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Señores oyentes de USA Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Roundtable desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal, from the city of brotherly love. Les habla Fernando Mendez, Dani Ramos, controla la máquina digital. Bueno, otro titular, el expresidente Trump, había salido positivo por COVID durante uno de los debates presidenciales, creo que fue el primero. Sin embargo, no lo dijo, no lo anunció. De algún modo, pues se ha recibido esta información a través de un libro escrito por uno de los individuos en su gobierno. Creo que fue Mark Meadows. Entonces, ahí está. Trump, the COVID denier, the man who thought COVID was not a real threat, that it would go away, that it could be contained. That man tested positive and did not tell anyone at a presidential debate when it was well known. He didn't say it, and his aides did not tell anyone and did not wear masks. Remember that we see Jared and Ivanka sitting at front, and the people on the Trump side without masks during the presidential debate. The people on Biden's side all wearing masks. The president had a mask when he arrived, President Biden, at that point, candidate Biden. He had a mask. That Trump, you might recall Trump mocking Biden's mask. He said, the biggest mask I have ever seen. As though that was something bad, something wrong that Joe Biden, out of concern for his safety and the safety of other people, had been wearing a mask everywhere he went. Trump, the denier, the liar, because that's all he did was lie about COVID throughout his presidency. It annoys me that Republicans who defend him say that thanks to his efforts, we have vaccines. Well, vaccines would have come around without his aid. That the whole process was made more expeditious. That became that quickly the companies came up with vaccines that is not specifically due to Trump's efforts. Remember that all throughout his presidency, when COVID could have been controlled at the very beginning, when more explicit directions could have been given to the public about the immediate menace that COVID represented, Donald Trump did everything possible to suppress the information. Remember that he gave a report, gave an interview, telephonic interview to Bob Woodward, in which he admitted that he knew about COVID and the peril that it represented, and yet he said, it will go away, nothing will happen. I don't want to tell the public and create panic. That was his irrational explanation. You don't create panic by giving us the truth. You create more certainty by providing the right information and not telling people to inject themselves with Lysol and some blue light. And yet this man lied. His people lied. And he went to a debate after testing positive. And remember, he ended up in the hospital because of COVID. And he received the best treatment any human being has received to get out of COVID. And then he climbed the steps of the White House after the event and removed the mask, the one symbol that he could have reinforced for people to protect themselves, promote safety. But that was not his mentality. He was and is all about himself. Anyway, so not surprising to see this headline: Trump tested positive for COVID before the presidential debate. Who could be surprised? It just never ends. So I was commenting on this anti-Muslim remarks by Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado, dividing the GOP. She mocked Representative Ilhan Omar, calling her jihad squad, among other insults. Congresswoman Omar received a frightening phone call in which a man's voice issued death threats. If you listen to that, it's a horrific phone call, a threatening phone call. That would scare anyone to hear this voice saying that with using really foul words to say you are dead, you will be dead. That is frightening. Congresswoman Omar received that phone call right after Boebert called her jihad squad. She's also the one who calls Mar-a-Lago the new White House. The Republican Party, in the meantime, is expected to take back the House. What's going to stop the public for voting from a vote for Republicans who represent everything that is wrong right now with us, with weapons, with guns, with violence, with racism, with rhetoric that is anti-immigrant, with rhetoric that speaks ill of the poor, that doesn't protect our health care. What is going to stop people from voting for a party that represents everything that is wrong with this country right now, and that is so divided internally because of things like what I just mentioned? This Representative Boebert, who has insulted Muslim congresswoman. There's another debate between Mays and Representative Green. But he has not responded to any of these attacks, internal divisions in the party. What to expect from a party that has been so irrational, that sold its soul to Donald Trump? We are at this point also on the way to help other countries ally with a movement to improve the climate on our earth. Remember the damage that Trump did during his tenure, separating us from those treaties that were helping the world to control the climate. That alone would make him a bad president, one of the worst we have ever had, the worst. He created deep divisions because he aligned himself to Vladimir Putin. Now, listen to the latest from Putin. He's warning the West against attempting anything in Ukraine. He says that it's a red line, and he threatens NATO. He says the West should not cross that red line in Ukraine. This is a man that interfered in our election. What is not understandable is another mystery that we have, that we've been dealing with this for quite a while. That Mueller report that took us all the way to the door and declared in so many pages the interference of the Russian government, Vladimir Putin and his people, his ambassador in the U.S., his people everywhere that they could, from Ukraine to Europe to the United States, everybody serving the Russian dictator, his desire to interfere in the US election because he wanted to protect Donald Trump in return for Donald Trump's support of, remember that Donald Trump wanted Putin to be put back into the G7 or the G20. He wanted Russia to be part of the international business community, in spite of the fact that Russia has done everything to destroy the peace, to disrupt the business, international trade. Putin is an enemy of democracy, an enemy of the free market, and Donald Trump attempted to help him come back. So a clean slate for Vladimir Putin to return to be accepted by the international community. He did not succeed, but it doesn't mean that that Putin has given up. So I repeat, all throughout the 20th century, especially in the second half of the 20th century, from 44, 45 until 89, 90, when the Soviet Empire fell apart. All the US was engaged in doing was containing the spread of communist ideology that had created tremendous poverty in Eastern Europe, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Ukraine. The Soviet Union had spread Marxist philosophy throughout Latin America, through Cuba, using Cuba as a launching pad. And look at Venezuela today. Look at Nicaragua today. That is what we inherited from those years of Soviet dominance. Where are they now? Well, that empire fell apart. Mr. Putin wants nothing but to recreate that Soviet empire. Though too late. NATO is very strong, and that's why we should support NATO and what it means in containing Vladimir Putin. Señores oyentes de USA Radio, vamos a tomar otra breve pausa aquí en la mesa redonda. Les habla Fernando Mendez, Dani Ramos controla la máquina digital. Regresamos en un momento.
You ever had this food before, or it's like the first time you're here?
Couple times.
Yep.
Yes.
So what do you order right now? Which one?
We got the chicken tikka masala
Yeah, I got the
and the butter.
Oh, so the Indian and Pakistani food is a little bit spicy.
Yeah.
So you tolerate the spice or everything?
I like spice, but we got the mild.
Oh, okay. So it's
But I can do spice.
and you? You
Yeah,
like
I
spice?
mean, I can somewhat handle spice. Not too much, so that's why I got the mild.
Señores oyentes de USA Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Roundtable desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. Les habla Fernando Mendez, Dani Ramos controla la máquina digital. Bueno, a little bit of local news, city and state. An order requiring masks inside the state's K-12 schools and childcare facilities will remain in place, while the state Supreme Court considers the governor's appeal of a lawsuit that overturned the mandate. The High Court ruled yesterday. Another big headline for Pennsylvania for everybody, because here's one person that is very well known. Dr. Mehmet Oz, the celebrity heart surgeon, best known as the host of TV's Dr. Oz show, after rocketing to fame on Oprah Winfrey's show, announced that he is running for the Pennsylvania's open U.S. Senate seat, as a Republican. Dr. Oz. I don't know. And the man, as far as I know, I don't think he lives in Pennsylvania. He's been living in New Jersey, but we've seen stuff like that happen before. Remember Hillary Clinton, all the way from Arkansas to Washington, and then from Washington jumping into the Senate seat in New York. So it's not unusual. But Oz is a longtime resident of New Jersey, running for as a Republican in a bid to represent the Keystone State. The open contest will likely play a large role in which party controls the Senate in the next political term. So this guy is a carpetbagger, but remember one thing, his prestige is not what you would think from this heart surgeon who spoke a lot about our healthcare. He said, "We're angry at our government and each other," Oz said in a statement on Tuesday in the right-leaning Washington Examiner, announcing his candidacy. "We have not managed our crisis as effectively as past generations. During the pandemic, I learned that when you mix politics and medicine, you get politics instead of solutions." He should listen to himself. When you mix politics and medicine, you get politics instead of solutions. Stick to what you know. Dr. Oz, listen to yourself. But he said the opposite. He said, "That's why I'm running for the US Senate, to help fix the problems and to help us heal." It's another doctor in the Republican Party who has not been very helpful in any way. The Pennsylvania race will likely be among the most consequential in the coming election, and Oz brings with him a medical background at a time when the American public is grappling simultaneously with a deadly pandemic and a devastating misinformation crisis that threatens public health and the nation's democracy. In announcing his bid for the Senate, Oz boasted of his background as both the child of immigrants and as a medical professional. We like the immigrant part, the medical professional, and over 750,000 in the United States have died from the virus, a devastating toll for families and communities. He wrote in his statement, many of those deaths were preventable. Oh yes, they were preventable by Donald Trump, if he had actually told us the truth, many of those deaths are owed to Donald Trump's misinformation. COVID-19 became an excuse for the government and elite thinkers who control the means of communication. Okay, now this is where his true Republican colors show up. Dissenting opinions from leading scholars were ridiculed and canceled, so their ideas could not be disseminated. I don't know what he's talking about. Donald Trump's doctor, remember that idiot who declared that Trump was a Superman? Instead, the government mandated policies that caused unnecessary suffering. The public was patronized and misled instead of empowered. Really? Patronized and misled by Donald Trump and the Republicans. Everybody else has been trying to tell the truth. Everybody else, the medical establishment, outside of those idiots who supported Trump, everybody else has been talking about what we need to do, how it can be done, how people should be vaccinated. Here's the irony. Donald Trump campaigned so much against COVID and vaccinations and all that, that he now cannot control his people. Whenever he spoke, the last time he spoke in public about vaccinations, get a vaccine, he was booed by his own people. So let's not hear anything from Dr. Oz and his people. He has promoted, Dr. Oz, think about this. The man who wants to be a senator for Pennsylvania promoted hydroxychloroquine as a COVID treatment. The same hocus pocus, the same snake oil that Trump was selling, this guy was promoting. The Food and Drug Administration has cautioned against the personal use of the drug for COVID. Hydroxychloroquine, do not use it. Oz had previously been criticized for other health recommendations and has testified at a Senate hearing on deceptive advertising for diet supplements. Deceptive advertisement for diet supplements. So this guy is a snake oil salesman, and now he wants to represent Pennsylvania. Let's keep that in mind, okay? We're about to elect somebody for the Senate representing Pennsylvania. This carpetbagger, this snake oil salesman is not the right person. So he came in because Sean Parnell suspended his candidacy. And so Parnell, by the way, had the endorsement of Donald Trump. And I guess Dr. Oz, so closely aligned to Donald Trump, is hoping that that's what he gets. He gets the support of Trump. So I don't know. I'm surprised a lot of the time. I should not be surprised, but I am often about how expeditiously some of these people move into positions of power as soon as they give them an opportunity. Again, I repeat this, the Supreme Court is scheduled to hear arguments in the challenge to Mississippi's prohibition on abortion. Now, that's another one of the tragic events. This is where the poor suffer the most. The poor suffer in this city, for instance, the city of Philadelphia. We're supposed to be one of the poorest urban centers in the country. And we have some of the poorest neighborhoods in this poorest urban center, Black and Hispanic. And who do you think is going to suffer if the Supreme Court changes this law, Roe versus Wade? I don't know. The case is the first challenge to abortion law to be fully heard under the court's 6-3 conservative majority. Thank you, Donald Trump. It is also considered the most direct challenge to the 1973 Roe versus Wade ruling that generally established the right to an abortion prior to fetal viability, typically considered to be around 24 weeks. Here's another take on this. In this modern age, in which there's access to scientific advances, the morning after pill, other means of controlling without the need to abortion, controlling women's bodies. In effect, put yourselves in charge of your bodies. There are means, there are some ways. I'm not saying that like the Catholic Church, just don't have sex. The Catholic Church playing what they call the Vatican roulette. But there are means, there are scientific advances. There is a way to protect yourselves. And there are contraceptives, and there is, condoms, and so many things. But inevitably, people will make mistakes. People would get pregnant when they shouldn't, etc. And it affects mostly the poor. And this is why it is unfortunate that this challenge in the Supreme Court, before the Supreme Court, has a chance to pass and sort of immediately see the effects of that law on poor people. That's what we don't want to see. So anyway, we have reached the end of our program today. Muchas gracias por su sintonía en el día de hoy. Les agradecemos mucho que estén con nosotros en USA la Media Network. Les habló Fernando Mendez. Dani Ramos controló la máquina digital. Hasta la próxima. Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Roundtable. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news.